The fact of the matter is, we are driving violence down on this city, and we're using every single resource that's available to us. Jails and incarceration and law enforcement is a sickness that has not led to safe communities.
Eventually.
2 shootings just hours after the Christmas tree lighting, steps away as well from the Chris Kindle Market right here downtown. One of those mass shootings leaving 7 teenagers in the hospital.
It's very disheartening to see this. You know, holiday time, everybody wants to celebrate and enjoy the evening.
America, what the heck is going on in Chicago? The Windy City is feeling more like Gotham City, with the Penguin J.B. Pritzker as governor and Brandon Mohawk Johnson running this city straight into the ground. During an annual Christmas tree lighting ceremony, a family event that's supposed to be bringing joy and community together, people are getting shot up like it's another Tuesday in this urban wasteland. I'm about to get the bat signal out on these fools because crime, murders, shootings, and thefts have turned Chicago into a real-life escape movie. But here's what's really pathetic. Mayor Brandon Johnson said he's angry about the violence, but it's his own soft-on-crime policies that created this mess in the first place. Because here's what nobody wants to admit. These aren't immigrants or Latinos shooting up people. They're too afraid they're gonna get deported. It's young kids, and we know which ones.
Yeah, Suzanne, one of those shootings happened just steps away from the Chicago theater here. The scene has been cleared here this morning, but we know new details from Chicago police.
What is up, guys? Tyson DELACRUZ here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. Forget escape from New York. We need escape from Chicago at this point. Let me break down what happened at what was supposed to be a joyful Christmas tree lighting ceremony in Chicago. Instead of families enjoying holiday festivities, they got a front row seat to the violence that Mayor Mohawk Johnson has allowed to consume his city.
Coming up and down from the L Street station, and then this, as Ravi said and you said, Cheryl, almost immediately these officers, guns drawn, were on the move, and this was shortly beforehand. This is when we saw scuffles breaking out. You said you saw people throwing shoes.
It was a violent fight.
Yeah.
On the ground, several people and several different groups of people were fighting violently. It was very concerning.
A Christmas tree lighting ceremony turned deadly when gunfire erupted, leaving 1 person dead and 8 others wounded. This is what Chicago has become under Johnson's leadership, a place where even Christmas celebrations turn into a crime scene.
The witnesses tell us the victims seemed all to be very young, in their teenage years.
The shooting happened at 7:30 p.m. near State and Randolph, just blocks from the Christmas tree lighting ceremony. Families and children were trying to enjoy their holiday tradition, and instead they were witness to the urban warfare that Mayor Brandon Johnson policies have enabled. Think about that. Teenagers and adults getting shot at a Christmas event because Johnson has turned Chicago into a place where criminals feel entitled to commit violence anywhere and any time. Now, guys, let me tell you about Mayor Johnson's pathetic response to this Christmas shooting. He says he's angry about the violence, but this is the same guy who spent his entire career implementing soft on crime policies that created this type of environment in the first place.
Chicagoans who were enjoying our tree lighting ceremony. Thousands of Chicagoans came to express their love for our city. It was peaceful. It was a joyous evening, a vision of the best of Chicago. This is the opposite type of behavior that anybody wants to see. We have too many guns and too many young people who don't value their own lives or the lives of others.
Johnson says he's angry and frustrated, and that senseless violence has no place in our city. Really? Then why have your policies made it easy for criminals to commit senseless violence without consequences?
But I just want the people of Chicago to know that our police department, my administration, we're going to continue to go through this investigation process.
Johnson talks about working with federal partners, state partners, and community partners to keep residents safe. But what about actually arresting criminals and keeping them locked up? What about supporting police instead of defunding them? This is classic Johnson. When his policies fail and people get shot at Christmas events, he expresses fake anger and talks about partnerships instead of taking responsibility for creating the problem. Let me be clear about who's actually committing these crimes, because Johnson and the media won't tell you the truth. These aren't immigrants or Latinos shooting up people because they're too afraid they're going to get deported under Trump's policies. It's young kids, young black kids. Police haven't released any information about suspects, which tells you everything you need to know. When they don't release descriptions, it's because the descriptions don't fit the narrative that Johnson and the media want to push.
Man, I got one question for Brandon Johnson while he talking about ain't no violence and the crime rate down in Chicago. How the did 8 people get injured and one person got killed?
Criminals commit violence in broad daylight at public events. The reality is that Johnson's policies have created an environment where young criminals feel entitled to commit violence anywhere, including at family Christmas events. They know that there'll be no consequences because Johnson prioritizes criminal rights over public safety. Here's what really gets me fired up about this situation. Where are the suburban white moms protesting against this violence? Where are the activists who protest against ICE when it comes to demanding change from Mayor Mohawk Johnson? In this past week alone, 2 serious violent incidences occurred in Chicago. This Christmas tree shooting and other attacks have terrorized residents, but I have yet to see people demanding change from Johnson the way that they demand changes from immigration enforcement.
What we put in place did not do enough to prevent what we were concerned about from actually manifesting.
Mayor Johnson says the tens of thousands of people downtown made it difficult for officers to move.
Johnson promises to hold those responsible accountable. But what about holding himself accountable for policies that enabled this violence? What about the accountability for turning Chicago into a war zone? The shooting has raised concern about safety during large public events. Where are the mass protests demanding Johnson's resignation? Where are the activists camping outside City Hall demanding real solutions? Oh yeah, that's right. It doesn't fit their rhetoric. This is what I've been saying the entire time. People only want justice when it's convenient for their political agenda. The selective outrage from Chicago's activist community perfectly illustrates the hypocrisy of progressive politics. They'll organize massive protests against immigration enforcement. But when innocent people get shot at Christmas events, just suddenly they're nowhere to be found. There are growing concerns about public safety in high traffic areas, but Johnson's response is always the same. More social programs, more community partnerships, more everything except for actually locking up criminals. Johnson talks about investing in young people and communities, but what about investing in law enforcement and public safety? What about making sure criminals face consequences for their actions? The activists who demand defunding the police and releasing criminals are the same ones who are silent when these policies result in innocent people getting shot at Christmas events. They created this problem and now they won't take responsibility for it. Don't worry, Chicago. Do not worry. Johnson's solution to people getting shot at Christmas events is more shady Safe Street activists and more mental health professionals. At this point, it's like trying to eat soup with a fork, completely useless for the actual problem.
Who knows if they didn't make that amount of arrests and get that many guns off the street, there could have been many more incidents.
Former Chicago Office of Emergency Management and Communications Director and Mayor Johnson's former Chief of Staff, Rich Gaitis, says the city could continue to put Band-Aids on the situation, but the root cause lies with the parents of these teens at takeovers.
These parents have to be engaged because these are young kids. These are kids that are under 17 years old.
The root cause is that criminals know they won't face any consequences for their actions because Johnson's soft on crime policies. City officials are reviewing security protocols for future public events, but what about reviewing the policies that allowed criminals to roam free and commit violence? What about reviewing the decision to defund police and release dangerous criminals? Johnson's approach to crime is like bringing a social worker to a gunfight. When people are getting shot at Christmas events, you need police and prosecutors, not community organizers and mental health professionals. Chicago has literally become Gotham City under Johnson's leadership. You've got the Penguin, J.B. Pritzker as governor, enabling this chaos from Springfield, and Mayor Mohawk Johnson implementing policies that turn family Christmas events into crime scenes. This shooting occurred at one of Chicago's busiest areas, known for shopping, dining, and entertainment. Johnson has turned the heart of the city into a place where families can't safely attend Christmas events.
This statement last night before we got updated information from police, he said 300 juveniles were rioting in the Loop after the shooting. He also said multiple police officers were attacked and injured with mace and stun guns, with at least one officer hospitalized.
The reality is that Johnson has created an environment where Batman would be needed to clean up the streets. Except instead of the Joker and the Riddler, we have young criminals who know they won't face consequences for shooting up people. Here's some free advice that you don't have to pay me for. Chicago doesn't need any more community partnerships or violence intervention specialists. It needs real leadership that will actually address crime instead of making excuses for it. Your approach, Mr. Brandon Johnson, has failed, and innocent people are paying the price. Instead of admitting his policies have failed, Johnson continues to double down on the same approach that created this mess. More social programs, more community outreach, more everything except for actually locking up criminals who shoot people. America, the Chicago Christmas tree lighting shooting in Chicago perfectly illustrates how Mayor Mohawk Johnson has turned the Windy City into Gotham City. When families can't safely attend holiday events without risking getting shot, you know your city is completely failed. Johnson's fake anger about violence rings hollow when his own policies created an environment that enables these crimes. His soft on crime approach has criminals entitled to commit violence anywhere, including Christmas celebrations. The selective outrage from activists who protest immigration enforcement but conveniently stay silent when innocent people get shot shows the hypocrisy of progressive politics. They only want justice when it fits their political agenda. Johnson's solution of more community partnerships and violence intervention specialists is like driving a car without a steering wheel. It's completely useless for addressing the actual problem. When criminals know they won't face consequences, they'll continue committing violence. Chicago has become a real-life Escape from Chicago movie where residents need to flee their own city to find safety. The Penguin Pritzker and Mayor Mohawk Johnson have created an urban wasteland where even Christmas events turn into crime scenes. The city needs real leadership that will prioritize public safety over political correctness. Until that happens, Chicago will continue to be a place where families can't safely celebrate holidays. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.